Right, as you can see here, we're looking at a presented fantasy face project. Now, it's a very high quality presented fantasy face project, and I will explain to you why. Look at the presentation. She sets the scene. She's thought about the lettering. She's done almost like a ransom note effect, cutting them out of newspaper. She's got bits of annotations along these lines here, and then in this portrait, she has little bits that you lift up with little secret areas where she's worked into it with different types of eyes or different types of skin surfaces underneath. So it's got an interactive element to this book. As we turn over, she started to look at, she's got fantasy there, sorry. She's put possible artists that she might look at in here. She's got little tiny books that she's made with different initial influences, just showing that she's done some research and she knows all the different types of things that there are out there in terms of fantasy face styles. She's got other artists written down here, little bits of illustrations, bits of eyes, different types of eyes. Some of these drawings have come from some of these images in the books. Then we move on to here. This is obviously the first section that we do with the ESCHER image and the different materials. Okay, so she's got her concertina here. This is her experimental one where she's got ripped paper, bits of watercolour, bits of pen, working over top of collage, bits of pencil sharpenings and some string to make the linear ground. She's got her biro one here, pencil ones there, watercolour, coloured pencil crayon, and then she's got the Zentangle one just there. So you can see the idea of the concertina so that it opens out. She's also done little flaps with annotations underneath, talking about using the materials. I didn't ask her to do that. She did that as an additional piece. Okay, bits of information, you know, and using these little stamps, again, thinking about lettering, thinking about presentation. She's added in some of her own bits, which is what you would do if you're aiming for the top grades. So she's got little sketches here of a school drawing building up. We've got examples of Escher's imagery here. It's just been tied into the book. She's obviously realised she needed to put that in at a later stage. And here, there's a chalk drawing of the eye. There's her ink and stick. There's another chalk drawing here. She's got little testers of mark making. So some of those things that we do when we experiment can go into here because this says experimentation. Again, she's written up what she's done. You don't have to write up what you've done, but you know, she's reviewing it, she's looking at it. Here, this is all her own personal experimentation now. So she's really pushed those boundaries after those demonstrations. We've got the eye split into different sections and she's experimented with little things on each section so she can try multiples on one piece. Here, again, she's worked on brown paper for these and she's used some of the Pro Art type markers and pens onto there to look at the difference. She's experimented with mixing tones here as a little tester to see what it's going to do on brown. Here we've got more mixed media, collage, printing. She's got a biro drawing there, look, tiny little one flaps there. Brusho, working over an experimental brusho background with pen. Collage, printing off bubble wrap, printing off wallpaper. Working on black with white, playing around the other way around. So you're reversing what you're doing. And she's looking a lot at line here. We then move on to the artist research. She chose to look at Ian MacArthur. She preferred to work in black and white, and she preferred the pattern and the contrast that he created. So you can see here she's got her research, she's got some pattern experimentation where she's played around with patterns. She's got examples of his work. She's analysed it, looked at it and in her own words talked about where his influences were from. She's even emulated and recreated this one here, but then she's used the acetate to create the orange bit that overlaps, which is really quite clever. Oops, we've got all sorts of different flaps with different analyses, explaining symbolism, patterns in the headdress, all those sorts of things. It's just come undone. Always make sure you glue it down properly. And then she started to develop. We've got photocopies of her drawing, her emulation, and she's working into it in different ways. She's working into it with colour with African type colours. So she's brought a figure in here. She's looking at that tribal element, working colours into the headdress. Okay, she's analysing it. She's looking at segregation. She's looking at culture, media, her opinions. And again, there's an analysis all the way through. Very, very methodical. Here, she's got even more experimental with the colour. She's worked back into it with almost like a Picasso-esque abstract-y type quality to it, a linear drawing. She's played around with the weight of the marker pen and the types of media she's used, which is brilliant, you know, because she's playing, she's pushing forward ideas. Here, again, this is also very Picasso-esque. You know, she's analysed the colours that she can create with her pens. She's referenced those before she's used them in here, which is a really, really sort of good way of doing things. Having established that pattern is a very important thing in Ian McArthur's work, she's experimented with pattern. She's looked at other cultures and the patterns that they have in their work. She's little tiny annotations next to it explaining, you know, where these cultures are. She's taken different sections and drawn them using black and white, because obviously that's predominantly what he does. So again, here looking at black and white, those opposites tonally. She's experimented with patterns. She's done it where she's built up relief with string. She's done something where she's stenciled and worked back into it. She's working black on colour as well as black on white. Again, more examples of pattern. And architecture, you know, she's been to York Cathedral, so she's taken photographs of York Cathedral, and she's, you know, identified the patterns that are in there. You know, there are still cultural patterns in architecture, so she's done a little study of it here and a little bit of information there. So she's recording an actual event where she's gone to somewhere that supports what she's doing. Could have been a gallery, anything like that. Here, she's taken her photographs. So there's a homework where you take your photographs quite early on in the project, and you're looking at portrait. And I said you can do that dressing up with different props and things like that, get a model. You can also do what she's done here and, you know, paint faces. She's painted it with the patterns, sort of Ian McArthur type patterns. She's thought about different angles, different viewpoints, different things lift up to reveal different things. She's used a hand in some pictures, not in others. She's thought about the space, the negative space. So she's gone closer up, further away, and then she's analysed underneath a few key ones as to which ones she likes best. She's even done a little tester here of tone using eyeliner, because that's what she's used to draw on herself. So she's got a little study of that there. Okay, so layers of meaning. So she's looking here at the work of Ian McArthur. The headdress, she's analysing the headdress and what the headdress represents. She's looking at the idea of the mask and the colour and what it means, you know, why he's focused on that. So there's a real analysis of it. And she's looked at women empowerment in Africa, America. So she's linking in, you know, some cultural, historical things as well. Again, lots of bits of inspiration. And then she's got her other piece of work there. And developments, again, from his work. Playing around with the backgrounds, the collage, the background. You know, all of this could be scanned and used in Photoshop and all sorts of different developments with it. But again, she's bringing in that orange to contrast again against the black and white. Little areas of pattern, contrasting between pencil and drawing pen. And then here, half and half, that idea of, you know, something quite delicate and feminine. And then the idea of the skull coming through. You know, we're playing around with the idea of fantasy. She's got little bits of skull drawings and things underneath here. Negative half and half. This side is positive. So she's looking at upbeat things, you know, life, joy, light, sound, love. So this is all colourful in this half. So she's looking at very different contrasts. She's done that independently, you know, and it's a really nice thing to explore what represents happiness, what represents sadness. She's done other drawings, other experimentation. Again, I like the way that she uses these little colour palettes at the side just to reference what she's doing. She's a big fan of these sort of flat pieces here. Again, this is just on card. You know, bits of cardboard boxes, bits of tissue paper, bits of napkins, whatever you use, you can bring it in. So here we're looking at a different artist, an artist who uses continuous line drawing a lot in their work. So Chris Trappinet, I think you say it, I'm not quite sure, but anyway, and she's made the title out of little Scrabble letters. Again, she's thinking about that presentation all the time. The ripped corrugated card underneath the image, the contrast of the black sugar paper to the coffee stain. All really well thought through. She's done her own drawing here, emulating what he's done there, but working over the coffee stain. It's slightly different. Experimenting with line and density of line there. And then here, she's got half of his drawing and she's completed the other half using white pen on black paper. So again, she's pushing it forward and experimenting with things whilst looking at it. Here, she's translated that earlier drawing into a continuous line drawing. You know, and you can see the links, you can see the influences that she's made. As we start to personalise the project, everybody looks at their idol or icon. So she's started to make it clear that we're moving into that stage of the project. She's decided to create a collage page of different actors, music artists, authors, social influencers that she liked. And then she's broken it down, okay? And she's got a few key people. She's got Benedict Cumberbatch. Again, she's cut those tiny little letters out of an old book. And a comedian and television presenter here, but some of the letters have fallen off, so I can't see who that is. But anyway, you know, so she's explaining. She's got quotes there. There is nothing stronger than a broken woman who has rebuilt herself. Looking for happiness is a sure way to sadness. You have to take each moment as it comes. She's then started to focus on Benedict Cumberbatch in his role as Sherlock Holmes specifically. So she's taken photographs of things that link to the storylines, that link to the plot, okay? She's done little bits of analysis about him. You know, she's got toys, guns and things like that. She's done little studies and drawings of these different elements. She's collage, she's mixed media, you know, really experimental, really explorative of his role. Here, she made it like a little book that you open up, and then Arthur Conan Doyle underneath. Foe and friend. Whoops. Here we go. So she's looked at the way that artists have used colour, different artists. Done some experiments there, some swatches, seeing how it all works out. And then a full image there. She's looked at the idea of murder from a scientific perspective. You know, she's done some of these different bits and pieces to do with fingerprints, which to do with, you know, searching for a criminal, looking at the psychology and the mind of somebody who commits a crime. Here is her portrait. Beautiful use of tone, really accurate, lovely. So that was what we scanned in order to do the development. Here you can see with the photocopy, she's cut it out, popped it down, cut into it like Ian MacArthur would do, and then she started to develop her composition and her patterns coming from that initial collage. Here she's looked at other artists that would link in there, so Luke Dixon, Millie Marotta and Bridget Riley. So she's brought in some other artistic influences in there. She's decided she wants to use symmetry in this one, so she's got that in there. Again, to get more marks, you explore, you try things out, you do different compositions, different arrangements. So this is one where she's got almost like the half and half, similar to some of the stuff that she was looking at earlier on. Again, she's done one where it's on the face. You know, she's got some just linear sections that she's left plain to create contrast. And then here, you know, we've got sort of the pocket watch, we've got the magnifying glass, the DNA strand, the jail bars with the hands on them. we've got sort of some of the chemical bits here, the roll of the dice, the formulas, the violin, moustache, all different things that we associate with Sherlock Holmes. You can see there the silhouette of the pipe is coming in there, all hidden discreetly in the patterns. You've got like a heartbeat trace coming in here as well. So here in her analysis, you can explain why she's chosen certain things, but you can see she's really thought it through. And then the idea of developing into colour. You know, she looked at those bright coloured artists earlier on. She's come back to those. She's experimented with designs that are going landscape rather than just portrait. Again, taking them into colour. Stretching the image, working onto collage for different types of effects. She's annotated on bits of tracing paper, explaining how she's developed her scans of the work with some of her photography on Photoshop. So she's got layered images. It's almost like a double exposure photograph. Here she's used the photocopies in the experiment of suminagashi, Japanese marbling techniques that we did in class. Okay, so she's got different examples of those. And then she's gone away and she's done some, you know, found out about some different types of marbling, which was really nice. So again, the marbling, and then she's worked into that in different ways. So it's always thinking about how you can push things forward, how you can personalise. And again, the Luke Dixon drawing back over the top of that marbling. So it's layering and bringing together different styles. She's got the colour, the Ian MacArthur pattern, and the Luke Dixon type continuous line in there. So we've got loads of different things going on. You know, using different stencils and printing and things like that to try and disguise or hide the image. And then here she's played around with the idea of David Hockney and his joiners, his photographs that all join together. She's done a similar thing here. She's used an image of a brother and created a joiner effect. And then on lolly sticks, she's glued the lolly sticks down and painted those as a different type of background for her image, inspired by this piece here. Looking at sort of Warhol influence in terms of colour. You can see here Randy Warhol reference. And then here we've got all sorts of different examples of fan art of Benedict Cumberbatch. So she's looking at sort of what is already out there, what other people are doing, you know, to show their respect for him, etc., etc. And she can compare it to her own, which is very, very different. Playing around with the idea of the silhouette. She's got all sorts of images inside there. She's made a little pocket where these developments are all inside. All developments with the silhouette shapes. Put that down there. So you can see she's so thorough, but that is what makes a 9. You know, she's done all this extra stuff independently and creatively, you know. So that's why, you know, what makes a number 9 in terms of grades. Here she's played around with charcoal, trying to capture Cumberbatch as well. Here, mixed media, building up bits of relief over the top of some of those photocopies. You can see that this is just such a comprehensive body of work. The amount of thought and development that goes into it is amazing. Everything has a relevance and a meaning that she justifies through her annotations. And you can see a clear journey, the links from one technique or one piece of work to the other. That's what helps tell the story of the project.